and I, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Hello everyone, welcome to round 5 of Plebian Racing's inaugural GT4 season at Indy Road in the wet, and it is a torrential downpour out there for our drivers. Pasha here, who has a bottle of water, and what was that?
2 glasses, one with water, one with scotch. Depending on the situation, I'll be reaching for one or the other.
Joining me in the commentator booth is the man with the bottle of water and the bottles and the glass of scotch, Pasha Patterson.
Yeah.
Pasha, have you ever driven Indy Road?
Not in this sim, and I'm trying to remember. There was briefly a Indianapolis mod on Race Department for Assetto Corsa. Original recipe that I played with for a while. It has since disappeared because I guess it came from not so savory sources, but it's a tough track, very flat, kind of hard to see where things are coming from. And now we're adding the spice of it pouring down rain. So we'll see how these guys deal with it out there.
Not our biggest grid today. However, I think the rain will make it more than enough for some of these drivers today. I think for that Indy mod, I've driven it, and I'm not sure if it was removed because it was ripped from another game or if it was removed just because it was a bad mod. Because that was a yeah, your frames tank miserably. It feels bad, and it offers a bunch of layouts, but all of them just feel bad. And I thought it was the track, but then I got a little bit of seat time, not much. I ran a few laps on Indy Road and ACC, and it was definitely just, I think, the worst mod I have ever used.
Oh, well, you haven't delved deep enough into the pile of things on Race Department.
I have not. I've seen their I've done a few things that just, it felt bad, but usually it's never on Race Department. I found usually on Race Department, I guess, it's pretty quality stuff.
There are many gems, but there are a few polished, shall we say, scats.
Oh. Going back to ACC, we have currently the fastest is Jeremy Mercer at a 52.3, followed by followed by Peter O'Brien and Eric Diaz. Eric Diaz, I believe, is in the KTM, which I can't say for sure, but I believe the KTM is supposed to be the fastest car in the rain.
Certainly could be.
So I'm kind of surprised to see him not really putting it in pole. Although I'm not sure what Mercer's driving. Let's check that out. He is in the Alpine.
Yeah, both he and O'Brien have been fast in those Alpines. Diaz has been right up towards the front in many of the races so far. So he's in the right ballpark of the scoreboard, with Juan just behind in the Porsche, which should also do well here.
I wonder how the Porsche handles in the rain. It's considered to be the best of the GT4s. All the sweats, as they say, love to drive around in the Porsche. But from what I've never really heard about it in the rain. In fact, I don't think I've heard about much of any of these GT4s besides the Mercedes. I believe is at a severe disadvantage in the rain.
I forget what year it was, but there was a washout at the 12 Hours of Sebring several years ago, and one of the Porsche GT cars was in a position to win the race overall, just because it was getting through the rain and the prototypes couldn't. So, yeah, the heavy rear end seems to do well here.
I believe for GT4s, the only heavy rear end car is the Alpine, which is a rear engine car, I believe. I think the GT4 Cayman is mid-engine from Porsche. I'm not
Close enough.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how they all end up behaving. Just especially over a race, because some cars you can really get that one lap out of. You can kind of force it, but then just over a race, keeping that lap times up feels near impossible. However, overtaking in the rain is never an easy feat, especially as that dry line is there. You know, if you have to overtake offline, braking early, just avoiding lockup and sliding off the track is hard enough, especially on a flat track like Indy.
Yeah, the lack of camber on anything but the oval part is gonna cause some trouble for these guys. And you know, we don't have many illusions about being pros here, and it's all too easy to overtake in the wet. But can you overtake cleanly in the wet rather than, you know, bullying somebody off the track? That's the test.
Overtaking cleanly is it's hard enough in the dry. I think on any track it's pretty difficult. Well, I think Spa is the only track that really comes to mind in ACC where I feel like if you're faster, you just will get around the car in front, no question. But outside of that, I think overtaking just in general is difficult. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where some of these drivers end up. Like Jeffrey Bray, who's I believe won Bathurst. I want to say Bray won Bathurst. He is down in 7th right now, just struggling in that Merc. We're seeing Juan up, and Juan's a fast driver, but I think this is his first time qualifying up in the top 5. Mike Middleton is very similar story. Joseph Chow, I'm sure he's happy with 8th right now. It's just looks like a huge mix-up of the grid, especially seeing Jordan Nixon, who is usually a perennial top 3 finisher, all the way down in 10th.
Well, in the slippery conditions, he'll really be feeling the lack of ABS and traction control all the more acutely today.
I do not envy him. Are you having an issue on Twitch as well where you cannot connect to the chat, or is that just my lovely app?
Which chat? The stream chat?
The stream chat. Never mind. I've refreshed the app for the 3rd time, and it now decides it wants to work.
Technology, meh.
Sometimes it's my best friend. Other times, It's an interesting broadcast. Oh, hey Luke, hey Sauger, how are y'all doing? Let's see. I think 4 minutes left in quali. We're going to start to see some of these drivers really pull out their best times. I'm surprised. O'Brien is... He just settled... O'Brien was down 6/10 on this lap. I don't know what happened to him. Might have went a little too wide and invalidated his current lap. But Mercer is down 3/10. Right on board with him. These off weeks have been rough for me too, Sauger. I've really wanted to race, and I keep going to the YouTube channel, wanting to watch back my previous race, and all I have is my previous broadcast. So I don't know. I'm excited. F3 starts up tomorrow night, and I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes. I need to put together the livery pack tonight after submissions close. So Pasha, how do you kind of expect the field to shake up this race?
Well, even for the pros, breaking into turn 1 can be a challenge.
Right.
So we'll see if everybody can get stopped in time to avoid whacking the car in front in T1. The Camaros are going to struggle a little, as are the Mercs. And Nixon in the Maserati. They're all going to have some handling issues going around. Maybe the Merc not quite as much with all the weight over the front wheels. They might be able to get some traction. But it looks like this is the day for the little guys in the KTMs and the Alpines to shine. Maybe the Audi, although Solomon just jumped off the board to 12th there. So yeah, this could be a real tipping point in the standings. Bring some folks who have been lagging behind up the board a bit. As been watching James here, and he's doing a little bit of agricultural racing, trying to get that Camaro around here.
You think the Camaro would be a little bit easier to drive with the rain? I think it'd give it that extra little bit of rotation. But you think we'll see a safety car this race?
I think the question is not if, but when. Whether we can get through lap 1 without too many incidents. We'll see. It's wet and getting wetter, and as long as people don't smash into each other or walls, we should be okay. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this. No offense to Luke, but I hope the safety car goes many laps down.
It would be nice to see. I'd like to see these drivers fight it out throughout the whole race, but the one thing I did like about the safety car last time is it kind of bunched up the field. It gave us action throughout all of Bathurst, which was really nice. And just constantly saw drivers fighting for position, especially on tracks that are so hard to pass. It created a really interesting racing dynamic, and I wouldn't be too sad to see it again. I'd be sad to see the laps of the safety car going around. But we have 20 seconds left in qualifying. See if anybody can see what some of these drivers can do. We have Mercer in first still, improving his time to 52, almost flat. Diaz up in the second at a 52, almost 52.3. O'Brien at a 52.5. And Ilpo directly behind him at a 52.5. It looks like a pretty tight quali.
Yeah, the three at the top have been trading positions here the last couple of laps. And now that time is out, it looks like unless Diaz or O'Brien can pull one out of the hat, it looks like Mercer's going to hold on. He's just pitted. James Leader's coming around for a final lap as well in the Camaro. I'm don't recall if he's cleaned this lap or if he's just getting around for practice.
Brian invalidates his lap. Let's see what. Leader crosses the line. I believe he's out of time, but I'm not seeing a checkered flag. Did he just make it? Oh no, on his dash I see a checkered flag. Looks like his quali is over. So last driver left would be Diaz, who's going into pits. Or Joel Dallin. No, he has the checkered flag. That looks like that's everybody. Let's see. And in the finishing order, we have, or in the qualifying order, it's Mercer, Diaz, O'Brien, Ilpo, Mike Middleton, Juan Carres, Joseph Chow, Jeffrey Bray, Gavin Moore, and Joel Dallas rounding out the top 10, followed by a surprising entry outside of the top 10. Nixon in 11th, Dean Solomon, Bob Robson, James Leader, Solomon Sod, John Crane, Derek McCord, Nico, and Jake Foucher. We have a little bit of time. Is there anybody you want to bring into the booth?
We can talk to Mr. Nixon about his trials with the unassisted Maserati.
No complaints here. Let me go ahead and bring him in to join us. Jordan Nixon, welcome to the commentators booth.
Hello.
So, how are you liking the lack of driver aids on a completely soaked Indianapolis tonight?
Oh, I'm just sandbagging, you know. I wanted to give them a, wanted to give them a false sense of security.
Starting mid-pack, surrounded by your competitors, how are your chances in turn 1 tonight?
Well, here's the thing. I have to brake a little sooner than everybody. I'm probably going to get rear-ended. Let's just be honest. And the other problem is, you haven't seen it yet, but the spray is awful. So I can't see my braking markers, and I can't match the braking point of the car in front. So I can't use the brake lights because that's too late. But I also can't see the braking markers. So what do I do?
Well, at least on the front stretch, you can sort of count the posts in the catch fence, maybe? No.
Well, I have to brake before the 500 board. So the 500 board is the first board available.
Oh, good time.
No.
It's going to be fun. So y'all just, keep an eye out. Watch me drift a little bit. It'll be fun.
Sounds good. What's your target? What's your goal for tonight?
I mean, honestly, if I get top 10 would be good. If I can get like top 7 or 8, that'd be great. It's just it's really tough. It's really tough to manhandle this car around the track. So if I get top 5, I'd be ecstatic. But my goal is to just let everybody crash in front of me and then take advantage. We'll see how it works.
I believe when we talked before the season started, you said the Maserati was not as bad in the rain as everybody says. Do you still feel that way?
Well, this track is particularly bad because it's all flat, mostly flat corners. So you just don't have any banking to help you. I have driven it in the rain and been closer than this, but it's particularly poor here. And maybe I just didn't know what I was talking about, so very possible.
The voice of increased experience. Well, good luck tonight. Hope you make it through T1 and through to the end of the race, and we'll see what fortune brings.
All right, thank you guys.
Eventually, it will let me drag you down. There he goes.
The audience is clamoring for Salman Saud to join the booth.
However, Salman Saud is not an option to bring into the booth, as he is relaxing in the GRG Discord. So, we do not have access to him. However, let's go back to the race on this formation lap. Let's go ahead and get a heli view. Watching the beautiful Rainbow Dash Alpine.
Right now we're watching the... there we go.
Let's go ahead.
Silly stream delay.
Stream delay is the best. see. Let's get some information for everybody. So
It will be interesting to see once we get the race started if we do have the eventual safety car. We saw during the safety car at Bathurst, people kind of forgot that it was not a real feature of the game and kind of bonked into each other. Hopefully, folks will remember that lesson from last week and we don't see a repeat of that tonight. If the safety car should happen to come out tonight.
I'm not saying it's likely, but I think I'm going to see the Plebian Racing safety car livery. I have a feeling turn 1 is going to be incredibly interesting. And I don't know if the required pit stop was the way to go for this race. I think the conditions are going to make it tough enough and create enough overtaking opportunities for all the drivers.
Well, by the same token, 50 minutes is a long time for these wet tires to hold out, particularly on a track like Indy where, as we've been saying, the track surface is very flat. All the cornering grip is going to have to come from the tires and not from the shape of the track. So it's very possible that these guys are going to be hoping for the pit window to come around to replace the wets as the tread wears off.
Currently, these cars are lining up too wide. Looks like they're starting to get in position. Around in the final few corners, we're about to get underway. Real quick, who do you predict's going to win this race?
Ask me at turn 2.
Okay. Well, obviously Nixon said he's sandbagging, so I put all my faith into him. Maserati, best car, right? Lining up too wide. Getting ready to go green.
Green light, give us all you can.
And here these
Boogity,
drivers.
boogity, boogity.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Here these drivers go down the pit straight. You're seeing Mercer pulling ahead. Diaz maintaining second, but O'Brien right at his heels, looking to see if he can get the inside going to the next corner. Ilpo just relaxing behind O'Brien, tries to dive up the inside. Nothing really to make of it. But it looks like he overtook Diaz, going a little wide. Ilpo under threat right now from Gavin Moore behind. O'Brien into second. The top 3 look like they're situated. No, Diaz is fighting back on the inside of O'Brien right now. Looking to see if he can hold it through the next corner. But the over-under is successful from Peter. This is quite the fight for second. But you just see Mercer taking off ahead with no threat.
Made it mostly through the first sector, but we had Saud and it looks like Robson coming together in turn 2. They're going to be hanging back behind the field and hoping to catch up. Doesn't look like they had too much damage.
Meanwhile, Gavin Moore looking like Ilpo is pressuring Diaz, trying to stay really close. I also saw Jeffrey Bray, Jay Bray, as our other commentator, Sagar Bakshi likes to call him, falling down the order. The spray looks miserable right now as we're riding on board with Ilpo.
Yeah, well, all the cars are getting bunched up. It's going to be very hard to see directly in front, and hope people have been picking out some markers to the side of the track to judge their turn-in points, because they're not going to get a very good view out the front windshield.
Meanwhile, we have a really good fight going on right now between Joel Dallas and Mike Middleton. Mike Middleton around the outside on Dallas. Looks like he made a position, but Dean Solomon not far behind. Looks like he has the run up onto Dallas, trying to go around the outside. Is he going to outbrake himself going into the corner in the wet? Looks like he's able to hold on to it. But no, goes a little wide. But Dallas is not done right now. He has Middleton right in his sights, and he doesn't want to give up this position if he can have anything to say about it. P8 is still in his grasp, but just looks like that Merc is struggling right now.
As is the Audi behind us. We see Solomon slide right out to the wall, manages to hang on to it for P10. But a surprisingly clean first lap. We've seen some struggles, but nobody did. And looks like people have used the practice time during qualifying to sort of get a handle on what their cars can and can't do.
And no 420 safety car. It looks like it's going to be coming out this race. But we have Joseph Chow, Jeffrey Bray all trying to make a move right now, and Jake Foucher, who's just holding on for dear life in this torrential downpour. Jeffrey Bray trying to do what he can to get those positions back he lost on the starting lap. Looking to see if he can make a move around the outside of Joseph Chow in his anime livery, but Bray eats a little grass. Doesn't look like it works to his advantage, but Chow's not taking the optimal lines, not using them as wide as he can go, probably leaving himself a little bit of room for safety. Jeffrey Bray around the inside. Looks like he might have gotten the position. A little bit of contact. No! Jeffrey Bray leaves some room for Joe, and he looks to make the over-under going on to the straight. On the back straight, Bray has the exit. He has the speed. He has everything he needs to do. He's looking to see if he can go the outside. Inside of the next corner. Can he outbrake the Alpine? He tries at it on the inside, and he gets the position. P15 for Jeffrey Bray.
Some great defense by Chow, but just couldn't hold it in the braking zone.
You know, going on elsewhere, we have Peter O'Brien only half a tenth behind the race leader right now, Jeremy Mercer. Eric Diaz a second behind them. O'Brien trying to hold on in that spray. I can't see anything. I don't know how he can. All I can see is a little bit of that car in front. He's got to be doing everything he can to avoid hitting that Alpine in front of him of Mercer.
Yeah, the spray's going to be tough, and it's going to make it even harder to overtake, because the closer you get to somebody in front, the harder it is going to be to see.
Oh, barely outside of the spray for a second, and you can see perfect view of Mercer's Alpine. Rocking that red, white, and blue, not U.S. colors, but French-colored Alpine. Peter trying to do everything he can, maintaining this gap, looking for any opportunity, but I imagine the rain's making it hard to know where he's going.
And we saw Mercer with the clear track and no spray in his face briefly had the fastest lap, but Diaz now in third, catching up, has the purple next to his name. He's set slightly back from O'Brien, and that's just enough room to get away from the spray and maybe see where he's going a little bit better and maybe catch these guys, or maybe just enjoy the clear track.
I think Diaz might just be waiting for one of them to outbreak themselves right now. Just trying to play the long game. Looks like we missed. I think Jake Foucher made a little mistake as he fell back into P16. Now under threat to Nico Medna and Salman Saad. Looks like that didn't really work out for him. Jake Foucher trying to see what he can to catch back up to Joseph Chow.
So, of course, recovering from that turn 2 incident, he's actually caught the back of the field again, and but now he's going to have to deal with the spray. He's had clear track to do all his recovery driving, but now he's going to have to fight the same spray as everybody else.
Diaz in third, only 3 tenths behind Peter, going down to what I believe is the pit straight. Putting in a lap time, he managed to close in 7 tenths on that last lap, or more than 7 tenths it looks like on that last lap. He's sitting right behind Peter. Like I mentioned earlier, that KTM handles this rain beautifully. If he's finally finding that time, putting his car together, I imagine he qualified second. He should be a little bit faster than Peter. He's just looking for the opportunity. That's not the only fight going on right now. Is Joseph Chow, Nicholas Medina, and Jeffrey Bray. All some action going on. Nico trying to see what he can do. Can he outbrake Jake? No, doesn't have the confidence in that Porsche. Joseph Chow and John Crane switching positions. Chow looking like he got the better of that, coming out in P14. But Crane doesn't look like he's giving up. Tries to push the car hard and a little bit of understeer in the corner. Salman Saad in P18 right behind Nico. He just watched that fight and licking his lips, seeing if he can make up 2 positions out of this. Going around, setting himself up to break on the inside, but thinks better of it. Nico doing everything he can to hold off Saad, and Saad getting a little loose because of it.
Nice little drift, wagging the tail of that Camaro. He's doing everything he can to make up the positions he lost, and then some. Using every inch of the track, trying to get some kind of traction and widen out these corners.
It's... Watching the Camaro kind of looks like a little bit of fun to drive here. Looking to set himself up on the inside of the next corner. See if he can get the position from Nico. Let's switch to the TV cam. Looks like he got it and he's clear. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Bray now 4/10 off of Derek McCord in front. But instead of this fight right now for P12, let's switch to this fight for P2. Only 4/10 separating Eric Diaz and Peter O'Brien as he closed that gap back up again.
Looks like O'Brien had some trouble with the spray behind Mercer and backed off into the clutches of Diaz, but now Diaz has to deal with the spray and hasn't been able to make this move yet. You can see him peeking out to one side or the other, maybe just to see where the track is, but he hasn't been able to get quite close enough to make the moves.
Meanwhile, McCord falls back 2 positions, loses that to Jeffrey Bray, and Joseph Chow falling down into P14. Looks like Joseph Chow is able to keep up the pace as he's closing in on Bray in front. Mike Middleton, no slouch either in P8, looking to see if he can make a move on Juan Carez. Trying to do everything he can to put his car in that optimal position. Let's see, come on, Mike. Come on, let's see what you can do. I like Juan, but I want to see some more overtaking done today. Looking to see if he can set himself up, trying to get the better exit through this corner. All he has to do is hold it together, but that's easier said than done in this rain. Spray in his face. I can't even see Juan in front of him. You can start to make out a little bit of the car. It's not far off. However, there's another battle going on. Derek McCord and John Crane are fighting it out right now. Crane seeing if he can maybe break a little bit deeper on the inside. And he got up to his rear axle. Did he make the move stick? You see McCord in the rearview mirror, and what an overtake from Crane.
Great move out, breaking McCord into the corner, and just holding that line. It's been tough for these Camaros to get the turn in, but he managed to slow it down enough for the wet tires to bite, and through he goes.
Meanwhile, Diaz sticking on O'Brien's bumper, looking for any opportunity. I believe he's braking a little bit later into some of these corners. He might try to make a move on the outside. No fakes it, seeing if O'Brien will defend, but no bite. Seeing what he can get in through T1. O'Brien goes wide. Diaz takes the position. Almost a little bit of contact between the two as Diaz is up into P2, trying to see what kind of fight he can put on. But that's not the only fight going on. Middleton's still not done with Juan Carez. How do you think the McLaren is in the wet?
Well, it's a good handling car all around, and we'll see. It's wet enough. Maybe the tires will last. It has a history of burning up some tires in the dry, but in the wet, could last a little bit longer.
That's what I was wondering, because all the downforce, I believe, is what ruins those rear tires on the McLaren. But in the wet, although you still have the downforce, you don't have all that friction. So, Mike Middleton looking to make a move up the inside. No, decides better of it. Trying to look for a better exit, but that curb looks like it disrupted him just enough. Switching to the onboard right behind Juan Carez, looking to see if he can maybe stick it around the outside of the next corner. No, nothing's there. You can just...
It's almost tough to whether they're trying to line up for passes or whether they're just trying to show their nose to intimidate the car in front or just get a view out of the spray and see where they're going.
I don't even think they know at this point. I think they're just trying to look for anything they might possibly get, occasionally trying to see if they can force a move, but for the most part, just look for anything. Probably actually looking, like you said, just getting their nose out of the spray.
Tell you who's won out in these first few laps with the misfortunes of everybody else is Nixon, who's now up into P6, muscling that Maserati around. Driver aids, who needs driver aids? We're going to get top 5 any way we can.
Clearly not him, and not only that, but he's managing to close the gaps to the drivers in front. I believe he's closing in right now on Gavin Moore. 1.6 seconds, 1.5 seconds. Last lap, when you're comparing the two, Nixon went a couple hundredths faster, but a couple hundredths is all you need. Let's see, Middleton on Carez, looking to see what he can get done through these next few corners. Looks like he might be able to... might be able to make something happen. He had that outside line, should be going a little bit faster. But every time we see him do that, I keep thinking the same thing. Outside line, going to go faster. Outside line, going to go faster. But it looks like trying to carry that more speed is all that extra grip lost. It's just not really creating the opportunities Middleton's looking for.
Seems like Juan Kairos is just able to put his car exactly where Middleton wants to be as they go through the corner. And even as he tries for the over-under and switchbacks and that sort of thing, Juan is just right where he needs to be to hold that Porsche on the line and take the corner opportunity away.
Just look, going into corners, it's just... I see exactly what you're saying between these drivers. Middleton and Mike, you can just see Middleton looking to make that move, looking for anything. And yeah, like you said, Juan's just putting his car in the perfect spot, and I imagine Juan's upset because Juan's probably sitting here thinking if Middleton wasn't such a pain in the rear, you know, he could probably make some time up, maybe close in on Nixon in front in that Maserati. However, Peter O'Brien only 2/10 behind Diaz. Imagine Diaz probably took a little trip himself, down 5 seconds to the race leader. But for this podium position, a little bit of contact between O'Brien and Diaz. O'Brien slowing down to let Diaz back onto the track and let him by. Looks like they're not really a threat to Ilpo behind. No love lost, no love found. Oh, and they are in threat to Ilpo, as Ilpo's going around the outside right now of Diaz. Seeing if he can make a position last, but thinks better of it.
A courteous move by O'Brien to concede the place and let Diaz go through, but yeah, Ilpo taking advantage, and let's see if he can get back in front. He almost made the pass on Diaz there, but Diaz managed to rejoin just in time. And now Peter O'Brien has 2 cars to get through to get back to the front, and neither one is going to be very easy to get around.
You know, when you're talking about drivers, just the caliber of drivers in this championship, Peter O'Brien is one of the best up there. He's usually incredibly clean. He's incredibly clean, knows how to find almost every little second of pace out of the car. He's blistering fast, and it's very rare to see him make a mistake. However, he's not wasting any time getting the positions back as he's back up in the P3. What a move on Ilpo. Just clean braking on the inside, establishing himself there and letting him know, this is mine. However, Salman saw it, and it looks like he had a little bit of contact with Derek McCord. Bob Robson taking a position out of this, moving all the way up to P15 as Saad's just struggling to get back onto the track in that wet grass. McCord trying to slow down, I believe, to let that fight continue with Saad. And looks like they're back to it.
Yeah, so it may be dealing with some damage after some additional contacts following the lap 1 incident, and just the difficulty of wrestling that Camaro around. It's tough out there.
It's really tough, and we're seeing it's creating a lot of position changes, but all these position changes we're starting to see don't really look like they're coming from... They don't look like they're coming from real overtakes. It looks like it's more just... Well, they are overtakes, but they're not on track, if you know what I'm throwing down. It's not crashing, it's just, you know, a little too wet for some of these tires, or for some of these cars.
And speaking of not on track, timing and scoring in-game now shows a drive-through for Bray. He may have tested the track limits a bit too many times, but it seems a bit early in the race to be seeing drive-through penalties already, but he won't be happy about that.
No, I imagine he won't. However, with almost 20 minutes done, some drivers might be coming in for an early pit relatively soon, so it might not hold them back too much, although you still lose all that time to the drive-through. It might not ruin his race, as he might have some clear air and be able to make up plenty of time. Meanwhile, Salman Saad and Derek McCord only 2/10 off of each other right now. Let's see what you see. Saad in the rear, just trying to look for any time he can get, taking a little bit of grass, trying to abuse the Camaro, but I don't know how much you can abuse this car when it's wet out here. As you see, Saad starting to slide around, losing all that time he gained. to McCord.
Yeah, trying a little. There is such a thing as trying a little too hard, and Sayod is finding the limits by going over them at this point. Oh, and the fight between Middleton and Kairos has ended in tears. Kairos goes around. Middleton slowed, but has now continued. Not sure how that began, but we can see how it ended. Kairos tumbling down the order.
It's unfortunate. It's not a fight I really wanted to see in tragedy. Well, not that I want to see any fight in tragedy, but that was a 20-minute long fight, and I was hoping it would last us another 30 minutes. Meanwhile, it looks like Salman Saad finally got that overtake done on Derek McCord for P16. But we've seen this happen before, and McCord makes his way back up. He seems to have the pace. Just makes a few mistakes here and there, but then he puts the laps together he needs to move back up the field. You know, that contact with Karez seems like it created an opportunity for Joel Dallas, who I uploaded his livery to my game, and it is still not working. So, get a look into that one after. Let's see. Looks like he's closing in ever so slowly on Middleton, or Middleton's starting to pull away ever so slowly, as it looks like Middleton was 2/10 faster in the previous lap.
Yeah, whether there was contact between him and Kairos, I'm not sure, but doesn't seem like there's too much damage, at least to his car.
We see Bray is in the pits right now, serving that drive through. Let's see if he gets another one from speeding into it. No, looks like he killed all of his speed. The wet weather didn't take him out. Let's see. Just this little drive of shame down the pit lane. Meanwhile, Jordan Nixon only 3/10 off of Gavin Moore in front. Nixon mentioned he has to brake much, much earlier than all the other drivers. So I wonder how this is going to end up playing out for him. Trying to get an overtake done, it's going to be... You don't really have that option to outbrake the driver in front. So you just have to overtake them on a straight and place your car on the inside. It's going to be rather difficult as the pits open up for all these drivers on track to serve their pit stop.
Yeah, Nixon presented with not many good choices. He can't outbrake anybody with the lack of ABS, and he can't really out-accelerate anybody in the exit of a corner because he doesn't have traction control. He can regulate his right foot and see if he can get the grip that way. But, yeah, it's going to be tough for him. But as he was saying, he can just sort of drive carefully. If he can keep his pace up and wait for folks in front of him to mistake, he's still got a shot.
Doesn't look like it's over for him at all. Meanwhile, it looks like the fight for the lead is over with Mercer 12 seconds ahead of Diaz. You see Jeffrey Bray came out in last, but he managed to overtake... Looks like Nixon's deciding to serve his pit. Deciding not to fight Gavin anymore. Peter O'Brien and Ilpo change as Peter O'Brien starts to serve his pit. We're starting to see some of these drivers start serving their pits. Like I mentioned earlier, Bray, after his drive-through all the way back into P18, he fell down the order earlier in this race, so I imagine for him he's a little upset that he's going to have to do it all over again, but that is racing, as they say. That gives us kind of an idea. Bray was, I believe, in the top 10 and fell all the way down to the back of the grid, so all these drivers serving their pit stop should come out with relatively clear air. They should be fine.
It'll be interesting to see, comparing the times between a dry and wet track. Making a green flag pit stop like this may not be as costly as usual, just because the lap times are so much longer in the rain.
How many people have served pits? We have Bray with his drive-through. Peter and Nixon are out of the pits. Joseph Chow serving his pit right now. John Crane serving his pit right now. We have... Looks like that's everybody diving into the pits for an early pit stop. I don't know what everyone seems to be waiting on, but looks like the real winner out of this is Nixon, who was battling for P5 earlier, battling with Peter, who was in P3. Looks like this pit strategy, whatever happened, ended up paying well into Nixon's favor.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things work out in the pit cycle, because these guys have all jumped in from in between other cars and embroiled in battles. They're going to have clear track, but so are the people who stayed out for a lap. We'll see if that allows them to pick up the pace just a bit on their, what presumably will be their in-lap now, and see if that's enough to bring them up the order in the pit cycle.
I hope so. It creates some rather spicy racing. James Leader decides to go ahead and serve his pit from P8 with looks like 5 drivers pitting behind him. It's going to be interesting to see where he comes out. Middleton and Solomon battling right now. Looks like Middleton and Solomon in that McLaren. Oh no, Solomon is getting passed by Middleton, being lapped. That's unfortunate.
Timing tower also showing John Crane with a stop and hold for 30. I think that's a pit speed violation, and Silot also has a plus 10 seconds. I can't see the game chat, but that's possibly a result of the contact he had earlier, maybe assessed by race control for incident responsibility.
Right, that little contact with McCord, I believe, earlier. Was it McCord? So that's going to affect Solomon's pit, putting them about, 10 seconds further behind. It's interesting watching some of these drivers who are pitting early. It looks like the rest of the field, for the most part, is pretty much taking notice of it. But all of the top 8 still staying out, trying to take advantage of all this clean track they have right now. As I say that, Diaz comes in from P2, Ilpo up into P2, Gavin's about to move up into P3.
Still a long way to go.
Halfway mark in the race hit. We've still got a way to go. As a lot of these leaders are starting to come in. I wonder if they're taking fresh wets, or if they're just doing a little splash and dash. Not really quite sure what they're looking to do.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting strategy call. Not sure how the wet Middleton in and out, seemingly with fuel only. That seemed like a pretty short stop. I don't think he took tires on that one. It was less than 30 seconds. So we'll see if he can make these tires last for the full 50 minutes.
And as we're seeing this pit cycle start to end, we're seeing it looks like a lot of drivers are starting to have gained some positions out of this. Middleton, he was battling with Bray until they had that Middleton was battling with Juan until they had what looked like a little bit of contact. Coming out of the pit cycle in P9, ahead of Joel Dallas, ahead of James Leader, ahead of Jake Foucher. Juan, who has the pit still in front of him. It looks like he might, after the drivers in front who need to pit, Solomon, Carez, Moore pit. Looks like Middleton might move up to P6. I think this strategy might have worked out for him.
Yeah, he's been very consistent throughout the race, just trying and usually succeeding in staying out of trouble.
Looks like Man, this Camaro looks hard to get around. I wonder if he spent some time making a setup. Riding on board with Solomon right now as he's drifting through the final corner. He's just struggling for traction anywhere. Not shifting early. I wonder if that's a choice due to the rain that he's not really getting those early shifts in, or if that's just, or he just doesn't know about the Camaro early shift.
Well, Camaro or not, you'd think he'd be short shifting just to get a bit more traction in the wet, but throw caution to the wind and have some fun out there.
That's about all you can do. Mercer, who pit on his way out right now, coming out in P2. Looks like the only driver in front of him is Gavin Moore. Diaz, who served his pit stop in P3, so it looks... Then O'Brien is up into P4, so it looks like once Gavin pits, we'll go back to the previous order, but the pit stop's kind of not really working against Ilpo. Middleton up into P7 right now. Looks like Nixon coming out well out of this. We'll see where he comes out, because we remember he was fighting with Gavin previously in the race, so whenever Gavin serves his pit, who's currently running in first without pitting, whenever he serves his pit, it'll be interesting to see how where Nixon and Middleton fall.
Yep, he should be coming in either this lap or the lap after. Moore is the last car who has not pitted, and he dives in now. So Mercer will now be playing catch-up. He's just entering Sector 3 now, so he should be able to make this move. Diaz slightly further back. He's still on track with, looks like, Medina, who should let him through. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. Depends on whether Moore is in for tires or if he's just going to take a splash and start moving again.
See, Moore's fight right now is going to be Nixon. As Nixon starts to get a little closer in his lap, we'll go ahead and hop on board and see what that looks like. Looks like Nixon's been able to put in consistent low 55s, where Moore, I believe, has been putting in consistent 54, so I think this might work out for him. But pit time increasing. Looks like the average pit has been around a 53 second. Moore only at 52, 53, 54. He might be taking fuel as it continues to count.
Well, he's rolling now, but folks are just blowing by on the front stretch.
Nixon passed, Middleton passed. See, Joel Dallas is trying to get around Moore. Let's see, Moore is currently leaving the pits. Let's see where Dallas comes out of this. Looks like Moore might be clear of Joel Dallas. But whatever he decided to do for a pit strategy, it looks like it worked against him as he got overtaken by both Nixon and Middleton. I really like Moore's Bush livery. I believe it's Bush. Yeah, just Bush.
I believe it's Bush.
I really like Moore's Bush livery.
Normally it's head for the mountains, but today it's head more for the rivers.
That it is. That it is. Let's go ahead and watch Middleton. Believe we saw Middleton. Looked like he was trying to overtake some track. Oh no, that's Nixon in front. He's trying to catch up to, lower that gap. Nixon, who's up into P5, trying to lower that gap to Ilpo in front of him. More for the rivers today. For more to the rivers. You know who's doing really, really good this lap is Joseph Chow, who probably hates that I mentioned that. Down 5 tenths on his best lap, 4 tenths on his best lap, 3 tenths. I am horrible luck for him. As he watches Dean Solomon make a mistake in front of him. See what he can do. Dean Solomon goes wide again. Joseph Chow looking to see if he can make a move here. Round the outside. A little bit of understeer. But what can he carry? Can he get around and avoid the wall? Outside. Too wide down the pit straight. Chow looks like he's losing out to Solomon. But Chow's not quite done with this yet. Looking to make a move up the inside. Try to outbrake Solomon. Realizing and thinking better of it. Decides to slot in behind. But Chow's not done still, as he has to slam on the brakes. As Solomon makes a little bit of a mistake on the exit of that corner. Chow just trying to hold it in and close what he can.
We've seen it again in other battles, but Chow trying to find an opportunity to pass, but also trying to peek out and just get a view out of the spray of Solomon. Great fight between these two. Chow's continuing to improve no matter what car it is, no matter what series it is. As the weeks go by, he just gets better and better and more skilled, more accustomed with whatever car he's chosen. And we're seeing it here today in the rain, in tough conditions. He's making it work out there.
He's really pushing his car, and he's, like you mentioned, he's finding the pace. He's doing much better. It's just what kills Chow, I feel like, is he just wants the position. He doesn't have the patience that a lot of our more skilled, little bit, I call them veteran drivers have, where they have the experience to know that there's more laps, right? We're looking at 16 minutes and some change left in this race. And there's plenty of time to make a move, but I know Chow, and I know he's impatient. He's trying to get it done now on this lap when he's a second behind.
Unfortunately, we also see our first retirement in chat.
Jeffrey
Mr.
Bray
has decided that dinner is more important than fighting around for P17. I hear you there, brother.
If I had fish tacos offered to me, I would also say it's more important. I would, Pasha would be a solo act for a few minutes at least. So this closest fight we have right now is Solomon and Chow.
Well, except it looks like Middleton has caught Nixon.
Middleton has, but it's only a slightly under a 2-second gap between those two. However, Nixon's doing a good job of holding on to Ilpo in that Aston Martin, especially in this no-assist Maserati, as mentioned previously. Joe just looking for any opportunity right now on Solomon, just trying to see what he can do to make a move, but sending it a little too hot. Trying to look maybe for the over-under, but again, he's 0.8 back, but he might have found the opportunity he needs up the inside. See if he can get the slipstream down the main straight. Solomon decides...
Weaving side to side, just trying to get a view of the track, maybe show himself in the mirrors for Solomon, maybe catch him unawares. But this is the fight of the race right now, just trying to find any edge he can to get around that Audi.
Oh, looks like Solomon messed up on his line. Joseph Chow has the opportunity, but he gets a little loose right there. Struggling on the exit of this corner. Looks like only 0.3 down is Chow trying to close in. Middleton closed down to 0.8, 0.7. That's going to be a fight we're going to switch to in a minute. I believe Chow's about to make a move. Or is Middleton, as he's only 0.1 on the outside of Jordan Nixon right now. See, going into the next corner, he has the inside. Can he make it stick?
How tough this spray is to deal with. He's just trying everything he can just to line up the corners, find his braking points, you know, count flags on the side of the road, do whatever you have to do. But it's tough out there to make a move.
And it looks like Middleton was able to make it happen on track. But that's not the only fight we have going on. Joseph Chow only 0.4 behind Solomon.
Middleton made a move on Nixon here. Looks like he's getting a little tough to handle.
I think the
Can't tell if I'm
Maserati.
talking over Dave. I am talking over Dave. I'm going to shut up right now.
it's okay. Looks like Joseph Chow's falling back. I wonder if he's trying to time the overtake now. If he's realizing he's not going to be able to get it just on any random corner, or if maybe he's still trying to look for any opportunity. I know, especially with the newer you are, the harder it is to plan a few laps ahead on your overtakes. Really analyze your opponent. Like, it's easy to know where you're faster, but it's harder to have the wherewithal to be like, okay, I'm faster. I need to kind of slow down here to set up for an overtake here, and really manipulate the track in your favor.
Exactly. Sorry if I trampled on you. I didn't realize that my audio was busted. Now I'm back.
It is A-OK. I appreciate you being here. Makes this broadcast much better. Oh, Joseph Chow might have finally gotten the opportunity he needs, but no. Solomon still just putting his car in the right place.
Going for the switchback here. He has the inside line, but ooh, Solomon saw him just in time not to collide. This is a good battle. Chow knows what his car can do. He's putting it all in all the right places. But, oh, coming down the front stretch towards turn 1, he might have it here if he can get the braking maneuver done. But no, he tucks in, tucks back out again. This is going to be a tough battle.
Oh, he goes for it on the inside into turn 1. Slides, but it looks like he was able to make that move stick. Taking a little bit of grass. Is he going to open the opportunity for Solomon to make a move in return?
Absolute full send from Chow, but he got the move done. And now his task is to run away in that Alpine, throw some spray, make it harder for Solomon to take the pass back. Looks like he's made the move. That was just full commitment into T1. Slam on the brakes and hope those wet tires find some grip, and they did. Just barely enough.
I think this is going to be the first time I get a message from Joe in this series asking, did you see that? that was quite the move from him. That is a P11, well deserved. With 11 minutes left in this race, though, I wonder if he can close the gap to Juan Carres. It'd be difficult to drop 9 seconds in 11 minutes, but this is not the easiest track to keep it all together on.
And he's finally blessed with something that he hasn't had in several laps, which is clear air to see with. So he's already pulling ahead away from Solomon. We'll see if it's also enough to close the gap to the Porsche in front.
See, Joseph Chow encountering a back marker who's doing what he can to stay out of the way. Car number 19, I believe that's Jake Foucher. Just trying to stay out of the way, but Joseph Chow makes a mistake. Looks like Solomon made the same mistake as we didn't see him appear in the foreground. See who else we have going on. I promised I'd show the McLarens some love. I mean, not the McLarens, the Camaros some love. So let's go ahead and take a look at James Leader in that number 13 Nat Daddy car. Repping the Blue Gang.
Highest placed of the Merkin V8s. He's chasing Joel Dallas just out of frame in front. Using some of those drift skills just to muscle this thing around the wet track. I think he may be pretty pleased with a top 10, as tough as this thing is to wrestle around. The other cars definitely seem to have a handling advantage, but he's doing okay.
See, watching on board with them, you can tell this is a tough car to control. It's just he's turning in way earlier than we've seen everyone else. Really trying to control that understeer and use what he can to get him done. Looks like he's shifting earlier than Saud, who we saw earlier, but it doesn't look like he's shifting that early in comparison to what I've kind of seen from the Camaro. I believe when you start to see 3 lights is when you shift. Oh, he did it right there. So maybe that was just an odd one. But Juan Carres, you can see in the rear view mirror back there in that Porsche slowly closing in. It was 2.5 seconds when we jumped on board. Now it's 1.5. So I imagine James trying to do what he can. Meanwhile, there's a Camaro he's trying to get around, a purple Camaro. Who kind of gets
John
out
Crane
of the way.
Just pulling out of the way.
A silent race tonight from John Crane. Looks like it's been a silent race for quite a few people. Struggling to either find pace, or maybe they found the pace. They've just struggled to maintain it in these rainy conditions.
It seems like the pit cycle has also spread some folks out. Not so many close battles as we had. I think everybody's just trying to hold on to their cars and make it to the checkered flag at this point.
Luke Baumeister saying Drift King for James Leader, and I don't necessarily disagree. He sees throwing this car around, and then when you look at some of the other cars I've seen James Leader drive, like the rally cars, he's been able to put it in front of. He's been able to get times that are better than some drivers we've seen that are rather fast, like Luke Baumeister, who's really. He's given his shot in the rally cars, but hasn't really been able to find that extra second that James has. I'm definitely not stirring the pot. Let's see. Juan Car is just kind of slowly... He's just sitting there. He managed to close that second gap a few laps ago, but doesn't really look like there's too much more he's able to do. Now we've seen the Camaro and what kind of beast it is to drive around. Let's see what the Maserati looks like. Braking at the 500 board, as he mentioned earlier. Compared to the Camaro, that is a very different experience as you're seeing him kind of tiptoe around the corners, not really trying to push it too hard. See Luke Baumeister in chat mentioning that jerk kept beating me, so I went to bed. Mentioning that the F3 speed is also incomparable. I think Luke's trembling in his boots right now, thinking of James and his pace. This Maserati just does not look like fun to drive in the rain.
Well, it depends on what your idea of fun is, I suppose, but yeah, it's definitely a bit of a challenge.
You see understeer everywhere because of that lack of traction control. He's late on the throttle compared to everybody else. He's braking much earlier than everybody else. It just... what it looks like is, I don't know if you've experienced this, but in Assetto Corsa, whenever you get one of those cars that just, the tires don't feel right, it doesn't feel like it's connected to the road. It doesn't look like it's connected to the road. But like the car still drives, but it's just the force feedback's lacking. It feels floaty. It looks floaty. That's kind of what the Maserati looks like right now in these rainy conditions.
Yeah, and we saw a little earlier he was even two-footing it around some of the corners, using the brake to try and help turn the car in. Yeah, if you like a challenge, this will definitely give you one. On the other hand, he's managed to hold on to P6 pretty convincingly after the early lap mishaps for some of the folks in front. He's managed to, he does a little bit of agricultural driving there. He's managed to hold the position and even stretch the lead a little bit on Gavin Moore, who's now behind him. So yeah, he's hanging in there.
Meanwhile, it looks like Juan Carlos has been able to close that gap to James Leader. It's not necessarily a battle for a top 10 finish, as it's P9 and P10 going at it right now. You see the background, the Porsche of Nico just kind of chilling back there, but looks like he might have held up James enough to give Juan the opportunity to make something happen. Only 4 minutes left in this race, but Juan takes what was a 4/10 gap and manages to grow it up to a almost 1 second and 4/10. I think he had his best opportunity of the race to move up to P9, and it kind of looked like he squandered it.
Yeah, well, he's starting to get that big, that large rear, shall we say, of the Camaro. Throws up a lot of spray, and Juan's now having to deal with it the closer he gets. It's going to be real tough to get around James, who, of course, also knows all sorts of techniques to make that car as wide as it can be.
Well, James, who is trademarked by Sauger as the king of the 45-minute overtake. I've never heard of James with the 45-minute defense, so I'm kind of curious to see how James ends up handling this battle with Juan right here. I've always seen James on the offense trying to overtake the drivers like Luke. I can say me, but it's very rare that I've seen him struggle to overtake me. But I've only ever seen him on the offense. I've rarely seen him on the defense. So I'm kind of curious to see if Juan's able to close this in these last few minutes of the race. He can maybe make something, maybe make it quite the battle. as James might not have every defensive move in the book.
You can see how well Juan is able to close up under braking compared to the Camaro. He's definitely going to have an advantage going through the twisty stuff, but James is doing a really great job of muscling the Camaro around and getting it to turn in for these corners. Juan might have expected to have more of an advantage, but James is able to pull away here and maintain the play.
See, looks like a little bit of understeer from Juan. With 2 minutes left in this race, they're on. See, the leader is currently on a lap, so it looks like we're going to have this lap plus maybe 2 more. So Juan might get the opportunity, but he's really going to have to push to close that gap the best he can. And I think there's going to be a point where he's just going to have to take a chance in the rain and pray it doesn't slide. Joseph Chow's 10 seconds behind, so he's not really at risk. But Juan, as I've been talking about what he needs to do to close the gap, he's decided to just close it all by himself, doing it the right way, just taking the better racing lines. And now down to 2/10. 2 laps to make this move happen. See if James and that Blue Gang school of blocking is going to pay off.
Juan definitely seems to have the advantage going through the twisty stuff. Able to outbrake James and close that gap little by little. These two know each other very well on track. Race against each other a lot in SRS. In fact, faced off last night in the Zero Bandwidth Fun Cup on SRS. Monday nights at 9 Eastern. On little shameless plug there. But these two guys know each other very well, and Juan will be looking for any opportunity that James presents in these treacherous conditions to try and poke through a gap and use the superior cornering ability of the Porsche to try and make something happen.
Okay, just to update everyone, with 21 seconds left, Jeremy Mercer is on a lap where it looks like he should finish with adding an extra lap to go, so it's all up to him. With a 13-second lead, he can pull. Oh, and James Leader goes wide, creating an opportunity for Juan to go up the inside. Maybe James just wanted to create an interesting battle, but I don't think that's the case. James struggling in these conditions. Down the straight, looks like Juan had the better exit. Juan starts to pull away in the Porsche. Can James fight it back? James will go into the Blue Gang school of blocking. Might have just failed his final exam.
That was just the opportunity that Juan needed. And by the way, Mercer crossed the finish line with 1 second remaining on the clock, so we'll get another lap after these guys cross the line. Mercer now on his white flag lap. We'll see how everybody's fuel calculation worked out. It was cutting very close. Like I said, it was 1 second left. So hopefully everybody fueled for a bonus lap, because we're about to get one. Mercer just now entering Sector 2. With what looks like a 13-second lead over second-place Diaz in the KTM. O'Brien, another 6 seconds back from him. So not many challenges in the top 3. Kairos now pulling away from James, who seems to have kind of let the position go, with Juan able to make up even more time with free track and no spray in his face going through the corners.
You gotta feel for James. He pushes that Camaro around. Just what feels like everything he needs throughout the race. And that one corner you understeer, it's all that's needed to create that opportunity. Meanwhile, Mike
racing.
That is racing. Mike Middleton behind Ilpo, who's behind Derek McCord. It looks like Saud, I believe, actually. Might be slowing down Ilpo just enough to put him within Middleton's grasp, as Middleton closes from 1.8 seconds to 1.3.
We got Mercer coming to the line now to finish the race.
As we see him cross the line, Jeremy Mercer, our race winner in P1, going back to this Middleton battle. That's only a second. It's looks like the gap's increasing. It's still stuck behind traffic is Ilpo. Diaz crosses the line in P2. Not that I want to miss that, but looks like quite the fight right now between Middleton and Ilpo. the line, Peter P3 wrapping up the podium finishes, but let's see who finishes in P4.
Yeah, definitely held up by the traffic there as they come out onto the front straight. Middleton with a huge run. Oh, and so just barely able to get out of the way, taking to the grass just to clear the track.
And that's Ilpo finishing P4, Mike Middleton P5. Next driver across the line is going to be Nixon, and directly behind him you can see the spray is Gavin Moore. Joel Dallas in P8 with Juan Carres in P9, but that's not said as James Leader's only a second behind. We'll switch to that fight in a minute as Joel Dallas crosses the line, and now we're watching Leader and Carres. Leader trying to use the full exit he can. Carres not feeling threatened at all. Going now, finishing P9, Leader P13, Joseph Chow in P11. Probably a little disappointed by the outcome of this race, with Dean Solomon behind, trying to round the final corner right now. 2/10 down from his best lap, which does not matter, but just a little fact for all of you. And our last driver on the lead lap is Bob Robson, who is 1.5 seconds down on his lead lap. Again, does not matter as he's the last driver in the lead lap, but it's just something to talk about. Probably throwing in the towel this lap, just realizing all he has to do is cross the line.
Well, I think all of these guys who have just made it to the checkered flag are breathing a sigh of relief, and credit where credit's due. Those were really tough conditions to drive for 50 minutes in that much rain and slick pavement with no camber to help them out except on the oval section. Great job from everybody. No safety car involvement. That was flag to flag, 50 minutes of racing. So just a monumental effort by these guys in some pretty treacherous conditions to bring it home.
So speaking of these guys performing in these pretty treacherous conditions, which one should we talk to?
Well, let's begin with, let's see, is Mercer in our chat?
Mercer is in our chat.
We should talk to the winner.
Jeremy Mercer, welcome to the commentators booth. How are you doing?
All right, thanks.
So you had something that not everybody was blessed with this race, which was a clear track for most of the night. How were you able to just kind of scamper away?
Well, I managed to get a good in qualifying, so I was on pole, and I just made sure I didn't get hit on the first turn. And then I have clear vision, which is nice that most people don't have.
Definitely a lucky break. Not everyone was so lucky getting through those first couple of corners. How about the pit strategy? You seem to have maintained the position there.
Yeah, I decided to stay out longer because I didn't want to end up back in traffic. Like 1 or 2 lap cars I approached, but I didn't want to be in the middle of a group of people battling, so I did my pit towards the end, did it clean, so there was no issues from there.
How was that traffic? Didn't seem to bother you too much, and in fact, many of the folks who were a lap down seem to be doing everything they can and then some to clear the way.
I didn't actually encounter that many people. It's a pretty big track, so we didn't have a whole bunch of laps to be able to lap too much of the field. So overall, it made it pretty open track. The track's pretty wide too, so it's easy to get around people.
Very good. Well, a job well done. Getting the qualifying position to get out front, like you say, and then managing to hold on to it and keep everybody else at bay while they were fighting amongst themselves. So great race. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Go ahead and throw you back up in the championship chat. Congratulations. That was a very dominant victory from you. And hope to see it again at Coda.
Thank you. I'll plan.
Oops. Who would you like to talk to next?
And bye. Well, Ilpo just deafened. I would have dragged him in. Let's see who else is in there.
Ilpo just undeafened if you still want to talk to Ilpo.
All right. Seems like he had a great result above and beyond what he's been able to get this season. So let's get his take on the race.
Ilpo, welcome to the commentators booth.
Well, hi.
Well, hi.
Hey, good. Well, this was a welcome result, a great finish, and holding on with some fierce battles going on all around us, around you throughout the race. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, that qualifying so high up was a little bit unexpected, especially since the Aston is not especially great in the wet. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. And yeah, I kind of drove mostly alone for most of the race. I actually kind of destroyed my tires. That's why Middleton was catching so much in the end. But managed to hold it. I had a couple of real scary moments, almost lost it, but somehow managed to recover.
So was the Aston, with its weight over the front tires, was that performing better than you expected in the wet?
I think the wet mostly because it makes it very easy to break the rear loose, so you can drive the car with basically neutral steering through many corners on this track. And that helps a lot because it usually wants to understeer on corner exits quite badly. So it's just a question of committing hard enough so that the rear starts to step out, and then you just manage it through the rest of the corner.
We saw a little bit of contact between Diaz and O'Brien earlier in the race that it looked like you were taking advantage of. Were you happy to see that? And what happened to where you lost out to Peter for P3?
I actually wasn't very happy to see that because I knew that it would, in the end, I couldn't hold the position no matter what. Like, even if I got past both of them, they would both eventually get me. And it would just cost me time on the cars behind, which it did. So, not really.
Well, you did manage it very well. How about the spray? Peeking around corners and trying to get a view around people. Were you able to make any overtakes, or how was it managing the traffic?
Traffic was mostly a non-issue. The last lap was a bit with the back marker because Middleton was really close behind. But no, the spray isn't really a problem here. The track is fairly open, so you can pull it aside a little bit if you need to see more or things like that. I think most of the problem is just there's so many corners where you are full commit and you can't really do anything once you chose the line. So that's the hard part on this track in wet.
Thank you for your time, Ilpo. It looked like you had an interesting race, and I was surprised Middleton and you didn't end up having a little fight with Solid, I believe, holding you up at the end there.
Yep.
Kind of
all right. Thank you.
No problem. Back to the championship chat you go. Alrighty, Pasha, is there anyone else you wanted to interview, or?
Let's see. Well, most everybody else is kind of evacuated. We could talk to Jordan about his travails with the Maserati in the rain.
Before I do that, let me do a very shameless plug. F3 starts tomorrow. So for anybody who does not know about our AC series, on Wednesday nights we run Small Wheels Racing, and our championship is starting up at Sepang in Formula 3. Hope to see some of y'all there. However, Jordan Nixon, welcome to the commentators booth.
Hey, how's it going?
So, how about that? P6. Well done.
That is not bad at all. I'm very happy with that.
Definitely. Were you surprising yourself with how well you were able to manage the conditions in the Maserati? It seemed like it was a little challenging, a little bit of drifto action, but seemed pretty comfortable out there by the end.
Yeah. It wasn't. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Once you get in a groove, it's not too bad, and likewise, you get out of the groove, it gets really scary really quick. I had a few moments, had a few laps where I was really struggling to put the same times down, but it worked out by the end. The guys up front, they were just really quick. I was going to catch them, so my only option was to just make up a few and take advantage of people getting punted.
Speaking of which, it seemed like you had a blissfully peaceful existence out there. Were there any scary moments with anybody out there?
At the beginning, when Jeff hit Joe, I believe I couldn't see anything, so I was kind of just following Jeff, and he broke way too late, so I almost followed them into that whole thing. But I managed to miss that. I had a good. Me and Moore didn't really battle, but I was pretty close to him for several laps, and I did jump him in the pits. He must have had a bad. Maybe you guys know more about that than I do.
It looked like his pit took a little bit longer, but when it came out, his pit times, I can go tell you right now, looked like they were around the same at a 53 flat. Everybody else had around a 53 or a 54. He actually had one of the quicker pits.
So he must have made a mistake because I came in on the very first lap it opened, and he went in on the very last lap.
Right.
So because I was about a second to 2 seconds behind him when I came in, and then by the time he came into the pits and came out, I was about 5 seconds in front of him. So that worked out. Don't know how it worked, but I'm glad it worked.
The only thing I could possibly say is I see a pit time number, and then I see a little number in parentheses right underneath that. So that might be the actual stop. And if that's the case, then yeah, there was a 5-second difference between you and Moore in the actual pit stop itself.
He may have missed his pit box or something. I had a really good pit entry, and I hit my box perfect. So, unlike the first race, Brands Hatch, where I messed up my pit stop and lost the win, I actually did it correctly this time.
Only this time it was for P6.
Yep.
You did great tonight. Goodbye, Short. Throw you the
Thanks.
championship chat. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Pasha Patterson, for joining me in the booth. As you mentioned, you have your series that runs on Monday nights on SRS called...
It's currently the Zero Bandwidth Fun Cup. We're running the Fun Cup UK Beatles. We've just with 2 races to go at VIR and at Brands Hatch to close the season.
And do you have to be signed up for the whole championship, or how's SRS work?
You can just jump in and race as long as you're registered. We'll be out of contention for the championship at this point, but the races still count. And we've had around a dozen people per race. We have starting to see the end of season fall off, but it's been very well populated, even better than we expected. So come on out. The car is fun. It's new, and it's the official Fun Cup mod for UK. So come out and have some fun.
Look forward to watching that stream on your Zero Bandwidth Twitch channel. I'm gonna go ahead and throw us over to the ending soon screen. Thank you again for everyone for tuning in, and remember, tomorrow F3 will be streamed as well.